Welcome to Be a Voice. I'm Brick Carpenter, and this is Usula Media. Thanks for joining me today. As we continue on this season with our theme of switching gears, I've really looked into a lot of my friends and colleagues to see who has switched gears over the years and how switching gears has affected them, maybe in positive, maybe in negative, maybe for good, maybe for bad, maybe just all around. But one of the guests that I really was waiting to have on my show, not just this season, but other seasons, and he sort of balked at it, but not in a negative way, but in a way of, you never know what to expect when you do a podcast or when you get on a show. But I'm really fortunate today because I have one of my friends here today who has an incredible story. He has incredible attitude. He professes to be from Wyomissing, but he's really from Reading. And I'm not going to even get into that because I just, Reading is Reading. So today I'm sitting here with one of the best photographers in Philadelphia. Don't tell John Cruz I said that because, and one of my good friends. To those of you out there in social media land, you know him as Photolope. I know him as my friend Loren Berckey. Hey, Loren.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
And you are from Reading.
Outside of Reading.
You are from Reading.
I lived in Muhlenberg.
Oh my gosh!
Taylor Swift was from Wyomissing.
Muhlenberg is where it smells like shit or mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Yes.
Yes.
So you grew up around the mushroom farm.
Yes.
And you smelled that your whole life?
I can tune it out, but yeah.
But was that something you were able to do? Because I'll tell you what, when I worked in Wyomissing, I would have to drive through Muhlenberg every day from Allentown, and I would hit the minute I hit the mushroom farm, especially on a hot day.
On a hot day in the summer, yeah.
Bam! I mean, it was sort of regurgitate. How did you deal with that?
After a while, it just becomes, just another smell.
That's so crazy.
Kind of like the subways down here, You tune it out after a while.
Yeah, but the subways, though, they come with different smells.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just one smell all the time.
Oh,
that's like going to Kennett Square, that mushroom smell.
Yeah.
I just couldn't handle that.
It just takes getting used to. I grew up, my first, I think, 4 years, I lived within a block of, commercial train tracks. So, I can sleep through a train going, right across the street, That helped when I moved down and lived on Broad.
Which is crazy because that was rural. Muhlenberg's rural.
Suburban-ish for up there. It's rural for Philly.
It's rural. It's definitely rural. It's rural for Reading. Why Philly out of all places? I mean, well, number one, you moved to Philly, right?
Yeah.
From how long have you been in Philly?
12 years.
12 years. It's a long time. So you're a lifer.
Yeah. I finally started feeling like I'm from Philly, a couple of years ago.
Really?
It took me a while to feel like I was from Philly.
Which is interesting because by hobby and by pleasure, you are a photographer.
Yeah.
And you take amazing photography. Your photos are great. You have a series now, People of Philly, that you do.
Yeah.
That you show. So you've been doing that that's how I got to know you, through the photography.
Yeah.
So, but why didn't you feel like you were a part of Philly until just the past few years?
Because very few people I ever met were from Philly. Everybody seemed like they moved from somewhere else and they wanted to feel the Philly experience, there's so much to do here.
Philly's very transient.
Yeah.
Very transient. And there are certain neighborhoods that are more transient than others.
Right.
I think what happens is people move and they move into those transient neighborhoods because that's what happens in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't move into really steadfast, years ago, nobody was I'm moving to Bridesburg.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm moving into, Queen Village or South, where that transient aspect can happen.
Yeah.
Where was your first place you moved to in Philly?
Broad and Porter.
Oh, South Philly.
South Philly, yeah. I always tell people not the racist part of South Philly.
There's a few of those.
I know, yeah.
We can get into that later.
But yeah, the bank that I worked for back then owned the whole building, and I had the opportunity to look at one of the apartments, and then I talked to my boss. I'm like, so if I move to Philly, can I keep my job out in Chester County? And I just decided in 2 months to upend my life and move down to Philly.
And you were in Reading the whole time?
Yeah.
Born, raised, your whole life.
Yeah.
What was that thing that you wanted to switch gears and make that change? You were in a comfort zone there.
I was really comfortable. I was a medium-sized fish in a large pond up there, but I wanted more out of life. Like Reading, a lot of things back then closed up at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. People could not wait to get out of Reading before the sun went down. My mother was one of them, which is why I moved to Reading, so that way she wouldn't come visit me all the time. But I wanted more out of life, and I never had a bad time in Philly, no matter what I was down here doing, you know, running the streets or going to Phillies games, you know. And ever since I moved down here, I haven't regretted it. There have been good times, there have been bad times, but I haven't regretted it once. And I still tell people that I love it more than I hate it. So I still have a few years left to live here. Once you start hating where you live, it's time to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That bitterness sets in and forget it.
Yep.
You know? And, you know, in Reading, you like you said, you're running the streets here. And you're openly part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah.
You know? And in Reading, that's sort of a hard life.
It was okay when I first started going out. But
why? Because you went to the Scarab every weekend?
I mean, yeah, there were a handful of places up there. Like now, from what I hear, there's nothing. There's, you know, LGBT nights and
alternative lifestyles.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was the bar, Scarab, right?
The Scarab, the Red Star,
Well, there was more than one out there, huh?
Yeah, there was a lesbian bar for a while, but I only ever went there once, and it was.
I always found that very interesting.
Spaghetti night.
I found it really interesting. Allentown had the same thing. They had, you know,
the Stonewall and Candidas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and then later progressed to Diamonds.
Yes.
But like, how weird is that? You know, there are still segregations at the bar.
Oh, but that happens down here though. There are people. I mean, even though most of the things are in the neighborhood, there are people who will not leave U-Bar to go to what used to be Taboo, and now it's 254. But there are people who won't leave Knock and go to, you know, trying to get anybody to go over to Stir from this side of Broad. And it's very weird. Broad is a defining line.
So, and you're out there. You like the clubs, don't you? You like the bars.
I like the people that I've met at bars. I've met some really good friends.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you formed a good circle out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't always easy for you, was it?
No. Oh my God, no. Because this is very hard for me, but like I'm very shy, and you know, as much as people tell me I'm not, I'm like very introverted, and you know, it's not easy for me to like talk to somebody and, you know, open up to them. Do
you think that what the camera does for you?
A little bit.
Because you really like taking pictures of people.
And I used to hate it, but
you never did. You were always like
the bridge, and get better at it.
Okay.
You know,
and you are good at it.
Yeah.
It's catching on.
But I want people to see that there's more to Philly than just, you know, the Rocky Steps and, you know, the out of towners going down to Cheesesteak Corner, and, you know. So I'm just take random people like on the streets or in the parks or like at the Mac Sabbath concert that I was at on Friday. You know, I've taken pictures of people there.
Where were you on Friday?
Mac Sabbath. They are
a Black Sabbath
tribute band, but they dress like McDonald Land characters, and all their songs are about fast food and factory farming and capitalism.
What?
Yeah.
Mac Sabbath.
Yes.
Where the hell did you even hear this band before?
Down here in the city.
Is this where they're from?
No, they came through. I think they started like a couple years before the pandemic, and I saw them advertise. I'm like, this just looks twisted, and I got a ticket and I went, and I've seen them 3 times now.
When you went, you knew what they were about.
I knew
a little bit. Or do you think it was a Black Sabbath cover band?
No, I knew that they played, you know, Sabbath music, but that they were, you know, kind of goofy and dressed like, the lead singers dressed like.
Where did they play?
Ronald McDonald. They were at the Brooklyn Bowl this time.
Wow.
Yeah.
3rd time you saw them.
Yeah.
You like shows. You love music.
I love music.
Huge. You go to shows by yourself sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, if I can't find anybody else, or, you know, I come home from work and I'm like, oh, let's see what Pearl Jam tickets are. You know, if they're cheap enough, I'm like, what the hell?
It's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
What made you pick up that camera, though? That's what I really want to know. Like, when did you pick up the camera, and why? I'm going to tell you why I asked that, only because I know why I picked up a camera, and I know why everybody else picks up a camera, because they're escaping something or they're trying to whatever. What was yours?
I wanted to remember moments and capture moments, because the first time I picked the camera up as a hobby was on a trip from Reading up to New York after September 11th. And the first picture I ever took as a hobby was before they took down one of the last pieces of the World Trade Center that was still standing.
So you've been shooting for that long?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're out in Reading, how difficult was it to shoot, like, compared to here?
It was a little harder, but I mean, Reading has parks, and they have the pagoda that everybody knows.
Pagoda.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot up there, but it's a much more car-focused area. And once I moved down here, I mean, right now I move my car every 2 weeks, because where I park it has a sign that says cars can't be there for longer than 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks I move it, and then I just go back to walking around and taking SEPTA and complaining about SEPTA.
SEPTA sucks.
Yeah.
SEPTA sucks right now, or as you said at POS. But you're a walker.
Yeah.
You love walking. I am amazed some days at, like, how much you cover in this city. On an average, what's your daily walking on an average when you're out doing, like, the photos and walking, because you're never home?
No. Ever since the pandemic, I have not averaged less than 11,000 steps a day,
which takes you over 5 miles.
Probably about 4 or 5 miles.
Which is great.
Yeah,
it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And plus, you get out, you get to experience things, you
Yeah.
get to see things.
My all-time record was New York and DC on back-to-back days, and I walked 27 miles.
And you like to get away for your day trips or overnight or whatever like that. You do. When you do you drive then, or you take public transportation or the train or bus?
Amtrak. I've taken I used to love Megabus. I've heard a lot of people hated Megabus. I loved it.
No longer around, is it?
No, I think they got bought out by Peter Pan or something like that. But I'll take a train. I'll take a bus. I haven't seen one of them in a while.
Yeah, train's easy though.
Yeah,
train's easy to get to where you gotta go.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna switch gears here. I'm gonna go to something that I want to really talk about, and I want to talk about. You talked about you're an introvert, because you are. Mm-hmm. I will admit to that. You really are. If we're having an event or social gathering, I can pretty much guarantee that when you were smoking cigarettes, you're not smoking cigarettes anymore, are you?
Off and on. Off and on since the. Gosh. I haven't admitted that to almost anybody.
You did now, and everybody heard it. He's back on the wagon.
Since the election. I was smoke free for 14 months.
14 months, and the election did you in.
The election just was devastating.
Really?
Yeah.
So 14 months you didn't have a cigarette at all?
No.
Were you vaping?
No.
Not even a vape? Nothing at all?
No.
That first cigarette, how'd you feel?
It felt so good. I mean, and that's why I never judge, I don't judge anybody who has their own, substance use issues, because that first, it was just as good as it was when I was like smoking every day. It was so good.
You relapse with the nicotine.
Uh-huh.
And that's all right. That happens. And but you know what? Right now in these crazy times and with the shit that's going on in this world, it's okay.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Right.
It could be a lot worse. And like I was saying, because you are an introvert, and I know that, I've seen you, but you're an extrovert with your friends, and sometimes it's the total extreme, because
once I get to know people, I open up to them,
And we have our group. We have our group of friends that that knows you in that aspect. But like, you are also a person who deals with sometimes maybe and I don't mental health in a different way. And you've had some not so good experiences in Philly.
Yeah.
And you've become actually a voice for that. And it took you a little bit of time to do that, but can you share with me that experience and what the voice you become for?
I mean, it was hard that when I moved down here and I started getting settled and everything, I felt like, okay, I have my life together. I lost my job. I was, I've worked in banks most of my life, so marketing is always the people that get laid off.
First to go.
Yeah. And, I got laid off, started looking for a job right away. And by the time my severance ran out, still didn't find anything. By the time my unemployment ran out, couldn't find a thing. And
What year was this?
shit just got really dark for a while.
What year was this?
2016 into 17.
Okay.
And it was getting to the point that like I was struggling. Like I was taking, I was dog walking, and I was doing freelance photography work just to pay my rent and to keep the lights on. And it just started getting really, really hard for me to like, see past all that, and I ended up, it was probably a week before Christmas, I ended up on the Brand Franklin Bridge, and I was ready to jump, and I was up there for like 2 hours, and then all of a sudden it just, in my head, I thought of three of my friends that I know would have been hurt, but they would have been pissed if I did something like that. And that just, it didn't, it's obviously it stopped me, but it gave me enough time that I'm like, maybe it's not as bad as it feels. It still sucked the next 3 months until I actually had a job, but I started thinking, okay, if these people care about me, why shouldn't I care about me?
Interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah,
That
and
brought you away
it
from
took
that.
me a few years to like let anybody know that it was that bad. Like even my best friends didn't know what I had wanted to do.
And thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
because I know how.
But
difficult that
it
can
opens
be.
up. It lets other people want to share feelings when they've done. They've had some mental health issues or depression or or suicidal thoughts. Like it helps you to not feel alone. Other people who you might think have it together don't all the time.
Absolutely. I always say, you never know what somebody's going through.
Right.
The facade is really easy to trick and fool people.
Yeah.
That aesthetic is so easy. I know that just as
God.
well as, to trick and fool people. But, as a person who, in college, a suicide attempt, I planned it out. I, very well planned out what I was going to do, when I was going to do it, because, that's, but of course it was foiled because, my roommate walks in and, which I'm glad, of course. But when you look at it, was it a planned thing for you? Did you plan this that day, or was it something that you thought of prior to when you said, I'm going this day? Was there, what was that pinnacle where you were like, that's it?
It was just days and days in a row of just feeling empty and lost, and there's no hope, and feeling hopeless, and I just woke up one day and I'm like, well, just might as well do it. It wasn't like I picked a specific day because it had any meaning or anything like that.
Right. You were done.
I just could not take it anymore. Like it was to the point when I was unemployed. Sorry.
Don't be.
Not a smoker's cough. That when I was unemployed, like I was out for so long, and I was worried about losing my apartment, and I never want to have to go to somebody and be like, I can't afford to live anywhere. Can I stay here? I found at the Resource Exchange up in, where's that, Fishtown or Northern Liberties?
Right.
Somebody had sold a whole bunch of slides of their trip to Europe. And I bought all those slides, and I was going to put them together so I could post them on Instagram and just tell everybody, I'm taking some time for me. I'm going to go backpack around Europe. And I was just going to, basically ignore being homeless and just let everybody think that I was, having a great time in Europe while I tried to get my life together. So like it was a
wild.
really hard time.
That's really wild, though, that you actually had to, like, you not that you had to, but actually you planned that out, that you you looked ahead to like what the worst case scenario one of the worst case scenarios could be, and how you were going to shield that because your pride.
Mm-hmm. Oh my, pride is a horrible, horrible thing. But
Absolutely. Was that the first time you ever felt like you wanted to take your life?
No, I felt that way. I off and on when I was a teenager, like when I was in high school, I thought about it a few times back then. After that, I don't know. I don't know if I just drank my depression away, because I went through a weird time when I was in my 20s and 30s.
And 40s.
Yeah, but it's something that was always there, and I never tried to get treatment for my depression, or and now I'm on Trintellix, and I absolutely love it.
What is it called?
Trintellix.
Trintellix.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's like an antidepressant, like anti-anxiety, but there are no sexual side effects.
Aha.
Yes.
Well, because you're a big.
I'm a big whore.
You're a big whore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I didn't want to really say it, but I was waiting for you to do it because he's not lying. He is a big whore. Actually, I would probably liken it to the fact that he's not a whore because they get paid.
I'm having the time of my life.
As you should.
Yeah.
As you should. So basically, you're promiscuous.
Yeah.
With a lot of experience.
Safely, but yes.
With a lot of experience.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to go with this conversation.
Right.
We're going to have to pull it back somewhere there. But so do you, I mean, mental health comes a lot with, at different aspects of life. I mean, being part of an LGBTQ community, I know there's a lot of mental health that goes along with that because of the socially unaccepted, the pride of not telling people of certain things, not being who you are. How old were you when you came out? Is that the right word to use nowadays? Come out?
I don't know. See, I've never used that word because
You never did?
I never came out. She knows it. My sister outed me to my parents because she found a letter. I actually did come out because I told one of my friends who lived in California. She wrote me a letter. She's all happy for me, proud, all that stuff. My sister found this letter while I was at work, told my parents, and when you're living at home, and you're 22, and you come home after a day and your parents are sitting there in the TV room with the TV not on. And then they start out with, is there anything you want to tell us? The answer is always going to be no.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what parent thinks the kid's just going to fold right there and be like, yeah, I did this and this. No. I'm like, no, nothing. So, and then when they found out, my mother kicked me out.
Really?
Yep. I moved in with my father's aunt, who didn't ask questions, but she didn't give a shit. Because she was liberal enough, I think. She used to think that if the Catholic Church had a place for priests to go to have their needs met, that would take care of what they were doing. So she was a little...
She was a little
liberal, or
a little bit,
or flaky,
or both.
Yeah. And I lived with her for 3 weeks until my mother said that not knowing what I was doing was worse than knowing what I was doing.
Really?
Yeah.
And you went back home?
I moved back home, and I was there for 3 years.
And your sister was living there too?
Mm-hmm.
How was that relationship then?
Her and I have never had a good relationship after that.
No.
I mean, she's always been a very jealous person, and well, if he's getting this, why am I not getting,
So there's no love lost there sometimes?
No. Oh, her and I haven't even spoken in probably 2 years now.
Which makes a lot of sense because you and I were at a concert together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was there.
She was there.
And you didn't
she was there with my
approach.
niece. The only reason that she got acknowledged as being there was because my niece was there.
Your niece.
Yes.
And we'll talk about your niece because I know you love to talk about her, and that's a lot of
She's
pride and
graduating
joy.
this Thursday from Jefferson University.
From Jefferson U. She's graduating.
Graduating with her bachelor's, and then I think in the fall starting her master's.
And will Uncle Loren be there, with flowers?
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean, this is somebody that I'm gonna, you're extremely proud. This is one person that when you talk about you beam, even your whole attitude right now changed.
She's nothing like my family, and it makes me very happy that, you know,
she's not like your sister.
She's not going to turn out like me or my sister. She's going to
or your mother
do better or go farther, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you believe she's graduating from college?
No.
Because I've known you for almost 10 years, and she was, at that point, that was, your little girl there.
Oh my gosh. I have a picture at home. I held her 6 hours after she was born, and it was a wonderful time,
So, and that leads you back to, when you're standing on that bridge for 2 hours, that's a long time. What was going through your head those 2 hours? You have your niece that you cared so much about, and, stuff. What was going
honestly,
through?
like, I wasn't even thinking about her. I thought about a little bit about my mother, but, I was trying to figure out, like, do I have the nerve to do this? And, I was in my head, I was like, okay, well, this will happen. They'll have a funeral, everything, I'm like, I was playing the movie out to the end, and I'm like, it's really nothing stopping, and it was a long 2 hours of like looking inward and not being happy with what I saw. But then once I thought of my friends, that's when I'm like, maybe this isn't the right thing,
Were you in like the middle of the bridge?
Yeah.
And in that little cutout area,
No, it was like right in the smack in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
And after you thought of your friends and it was time, what did you do and how did you feel?
I still felt really like sad and depressed and everything, but I got down off of the railing. And
so you were actually up on the railing?
Yeah, like I pushed myself up on the railing. Yeah. I was ready to.
You were going?
Yeah. And then I thought of them, and it gave me enough time to like doubt what I was going to do. And I just, got down and stayed there thinking and looking around the city, and I'm like, oh shit. And then I just started walking home.
What time of the day was this?
The afternoon.
So
it was a cloudy, crappy kind of December day.
You remember that?
Oh yeah. It took me, and as much as I love taking pictures in this town and love my sunsets, and it took me, I think like a year and a half before I would walk on that bridge again.
Did you have your camera with you that day?
No.
Which is really unusual.
I had nothing with me.
Because you very rarely will leave home without the camera.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's like the plumber going in with his equipment,
Yeah.
So you really went with intent. Did you walk there from where you?
I took the subway.
You did.
Yeah. I mean, I used to take the subway everywhere because I was a block off of the Oregon Avenue stop. So.
Well, that's right. You were down there.
Yeah.
You were on the parade route. So, well, I'm glad that you didn't do that. And, I think there's a lot of other people out there that are glad. And those 3 friends, did you call them right away?
No.
Did you ever tell them?
Yeah. Eventually I did.
How long did it take?
Oh, years. But it's, I've started planning my next tattoo, and they're going to be part of my next tattoo.
How many tattoos do you have?
Just my Instagram logo.
Photolope.
Yep.
I remember when you got that. That was like in 2000. When?
I think it was 2015.
15.
It was either 15 or 16, right before they told us we were getting laid off.
I'm going to tell you how I know that, because it was right when I was coming out of my addiction, because you were one of the photographers that I admired the most out there.
Oh.
That was the work that you were doing, the photo. And I remember you got that tattoo. I was like, whoa, what a radical. Like, you got a tattoo of his name.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much got to ride a photo lope till I die.
Yeah, you better.
I got a big tattoo.
Where did Photolope come from?
When I always called it bank school. They sent me out to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and I'd never heard of a jackalope before, and I was like, this looks like just the most bizarre little thing, and I loved it. And then I started thinking, that would be kind of cool, if, like a camera with antlers and rabbit ears. And I just fell into Photolope, and I named myself Photolope on Instagram in 2002. So that's why if you ever see me with a Phillies jersey that says Photolope, that's why the number is 02.
I have a picture of you with it on it.
Yeah.
Remember, we were at the game.
Yep.
I had a picture of that. And it's interesting because I never put it together with the jackalope, but I never asked you that question before.
A lot of people don't.
I knew there was antlers. I just couldn't figure out why, because I figured it was Loren, and I just don't question it.
Right.
He's
That's
messed
probably
up enough.
that's probably safer sometimes.
That's what I mean. I'm like, he's messed up. What the hell? That's why we're friends.
Right.
And Loren, like, to be able to share that with me, and to be able to share that knowing that there's other people that are going to hear this. I mean, you write about it every year. Mm-hmm. You have now taken it sort of like I did with my yearly, recovery date. You do it, and you are very vulnerable, and being very vulnerable in front of people you don't know, and you have 7,000 some, almost 8,000 some followers.
8,000, yeah.
You hit 8,000.
Yeah.
Look at you, big shit.
I hit 8,000 like last year. Instagram is like, I haven't grown at all. I don't know what they're doing, but
Yeah, look at you.
Just gonna start showing my ass like Kim Kardashian, and next thing I'll have like 10 million followers.
I don't know about that. You better get an OnlyFans account.
Right.
But you went through a lot. You went through a lot of changes. You went through a few different. You stuck it out here in Philly, which most people would run. Yeah. When you lose a job, most people would run. You stuck it out. You spiraled, which is interesting to me because I didn't know any of this, and you and I were just getting friendly then, and you actually were walking dogs then.
Yeah.
Now that you say it, that was then. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that feel like you do, though. I don't want to sound like you're not special, but you're not alone.
No, I know, and that's one of the things that made me want to be more open and tell people, even if it's once a year on my Instagram or on something like this. When I was finally open, and I think I put it up the first time, I was amazed the number of people that I was friends or friendly with who told me that they felt something very similar at one point in their life. And, the more people talk about something, whether it's, addiction or it's depression or, suicidal thoughts, the more somebody else is going to feel not that it's just me and they're going through it alone. You know what I mean? And the less alone people feel, the better.
Absolutely. And I think loneliness is really what, destroys people.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds really bizarre. I'm alone, but I am not lonely. I enjoy like spending time with me. I enjoy spending time with my friends, but I don't need somebody else to enjoy my life.
You have a balance. There's a healthy balance there.
Yeah. There
really is, and you have to have that. And that's so cool to people that are out there that are, still suffering. I mean, because, I hate to say that you're not, because you still do. We do. This if you're on medication for it, this is something that we deal with for our lives. Whether it's addiction, whether it's mental health, depression, whatever it is, before anybody gets to that point where they walk that bridge and they hoist themselves up, what would you tell that person? What would you tell that Loren back in 2016 as he was standing on that bridge now?
God, I think to be more open with the people that were in my life. There's always, you don't have to tell everybody, but there has to be that one person who is like just your best friend. Talk to that person, talk to your doctor. My doctor at the Mazzoni Center, I am horribly open with him. At some point, I don't know, like I think he's entertained sometimes, and then other times I'm like, I know he's just gonna shake his head as soon as I leave the room. But be open with them. He's the one that we went through a couple different medications for my depression before we found the Trintellix, that worked for me and let me feel the way I wanted to feel. And
you're okay. And it's funny because some people are so against meds, and meds work for you.
They do.
And that's what's making you where you are now, and the happiness you have.
Yeah. I mean, I still have days where I'm like, I don't really feel like getting out of bed, but like, it's it's not the way it was back then. You know, it's not that feeling, because I know when that feeling is coming on, you know.
Do you have that one person now that you talk to if something gets that bad? Do you have that friend?
Yeah.
And you do
I
that?
have a couple of them, yeah.
But you do open up now?
Yes.
Do you find yourself in a different like plateau because of it?
Yeah.
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 Bring yourself closer to yourself and your friends?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing when you start to become honest with yourself and you open up to yourself?
That's a big thing, being honest with yourself.
And it's really odd because you can be honest with yourself because, you know, of who you are, you know, because it took you so long to, you know, till your sister outed you, whatever.
Yeah.
But yet then being honest with yourself truly, like with what's going on in your life, what's happening mentally, you know, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And probably, you know, that was something that, you know, you dealt with because of the pride.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and stuff
I mean, we never talked about stuff like that in my family. You know, we never talked about anything. You know,
suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah.
Just
so
one of those.
you just gotta be honest with yourself.
So other than photography, because you are a weirdo with, I'm sorry, you are a weirdo with photography. You really are, which is great. What else do you do other than the bars and whoring around? What do you do for fun?
I will go do the most touristy stuff. I've been to almost every museum in Philly. You know, I'll go out and I'll walk. I'll get in the car. Okay, I decide I want to go see the sunset or the sunrise down at that East Point Lighthouse down in Jersey. You know, like I do what I want to do. I go up to that Hindu shrine up in Central Jersey, which
I was going to say that.
Amazing.
That looks great.
I've also learned don't go there in shorts because then you have to wear like
the sarong.
Yeah.
I like the sarong. I wore one in Bali. You kidding? I'd wear one around here if I was allowed. If I'm allowed to, but you know,
you're allowed to. Yeah.
I'll be tripping over it, and it's just not. You know, I don't have Garanimal matching sarongs. You know, but so you're okay going alone by yourself now.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
You know, and talking about this experience, you know, and being able to open up to it. I mean, you know, you write it, but talking about it, you're okay doing that too.
Getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all right. And you may not ever be fully there.
Right.
But little by little, at least you're talking about it.
Yeah.
And like you said, your story is definitely going to be somebody else's survival guide.
I hope so.
You know, so don't stop sharing.
If it's not, at least it was mine.
Yeah, but I think if you're telling me that other people have reached out to you saying, me too,
yeah,
that it is.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot for somebody to be a voice. I mean, being a voice is a hard thing to do because then you open yourself up. The vulnerability sits in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're not that man you're supposed to be. You know? And it's okay not to be that either.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy with I can look back and tell that 2016 Loren, I'm happy with the person I am today.
Which is awesome.
You know?
As you should be.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And I love to hear that.
Okay.
I really do. You know, there's always never enough time sometimes in these to like peel layers back. But I really was hoping that we could talk about this because
oh my gosh, yeah.
To me that's important. To me that shows, you know, growth and it shows hope for others. I know we use that word a lot. Oh, it gives me hope. But it does.
Yeah.
It really does because that's what people need nowadays more than anything, especially in today's society.
Yes.
You know? So, you know, if I had to ask you, like, what would be like a mantra that you would leave people with, what would it be?
Oh my God, I have no idea. Probably the same. I mean, I don't know.
Not what you would tell Loren. What would you tell other people?
Just you deserve it. I mean, whether that's good or bad, you know, you get the life that you create and deserve and accept for yourself. If you don't like where you live or your relationship with your family or your job or anything, you can change those things.
And you just described yourself in those three statements.
Yeah.
And you have. And so you deserve it. You're worth it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. And I love that. It's a really good place to stop, my friend.
Oh, good.
Dude, this was great. And I know how difficult this can be for you to like sit and talk. Like we can sit and talk like this over food and in our group and friends, stuff like that. But to sit and talk like this
Yeah.
and to know that other people are going to be listening and tuning in and watching. That speaks volumes for you. So I'm thrilled and honored that you sat here today.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Put yourself out there more. We need to hear the stories. We really do.
I'll try.
Yeah. If not, I'll make you. I'll make you. But anyway, thanks again. I really appreciate you. I really do. Check out his social media. Photolope, Lope, on Instagram. Loren Berckey on Facebook, Bercky. EY. I always do that too.
Nobody has ever spelled it.
Yeah, it's so really weird because I always know it's EY, but I think I have it in the phone as Y.
Yeah.
I have to change that shit.
Nobody ever spells the first one right either.
Doesn't
so,
Lauren, and it's Loren. Yeah, it's Loren. It's not Lauren. It's Lauren.
Yeah, I'm hardly ever on Facebook except to wish people happy birthday.
Do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to check to make sure that they wish me a happy birthday first before I waste my fucking time. I'm joking. Totally joking, Lauren. But thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for giving people hope. I mean, that's what this is about. That's what this whole podcast is about. It's about being a voice, and you did that today. So
thank you.
Check them out. For everybody else out there, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow Loren out there, and whatever it is you stand for, be a voice. This is Brick Harper on Usula Media. Have a great rest of your day.